Hello, and welcome to Led's Easy Guide to Aquatic Ostriches, version 1. Today I will be walking you through the trick known as Croc Express, or BirdCroc. This guide is catered towards DKC speedrunners, although there should be enough information in this guide for casual players to perform the glitch and try it out too. First, a little history and high-level information about the trick. A version of the split-up glitch, and the ability to bring Rambi into other stages, was discovered as early as 1996 by David Wan. In 2007, TJP discovered an alternate way to perform the split-up glitch, allowing for Espresso to be taken into other levels. While starting on the 101% TAS in 2007, Tampa and Arn the Great tested using Espresso in Croctopus Chase to save time over swimming through it normally. After enlisting the help of Alyosha to create a custom radar script and optimally TAS the stage, the end product was featured in the TAS when it was published in 2017. Several runners of the game worked on making the trick RTA viable over the following years, including Nay and Lumophile, who attempted the trick in a community tournament, Jackie, who did a very safe version of the trick in a marathon, and Rock, who worked on optimizing the routing. Inspired by their efforts, and after putting in a lot of time of my own, I came up with a reliable RTA route that saves time over swimming through the stage in February 2024. Lovebird learned the route and helped me iterate on it over the past month or so, and the result is what I'll be sharing in this video today. It will continue to evolve as more runners learn the trick and experiment with optimizations and alternate strats, but this video should serve as a good baseline for the trick. So the big question, how much time does it save? With the current strats, a flawless run can save up to 25 seconds. There's a lot of variance in the trick, however, so even with a lot of practice, you should only expect to save 15 to 20 seconds with no major mistakes. While I wouldn't recommend a new runner learn this trick immediately, due to the risk of losing a run and the time investment required to get comfortable with it, it saves a lot of time and should be highly considered for intermediate and advanced runners. The trick can be used in any category that doesn't ban major glitches, including most notably all stages, 101%, and warpless. I want to address the layout that I'm using in this video. On the left, you'll of course see the game feed, although I am playing on a ROM hack created by Louis that replaces the banana counter with a lag frame counter and the lives counter with a stage timer. On the bottom right, you will see my controller input display, created by Kung Fused Mic, which shows each button on its own track, and several seconds of input history. And on the top right, you will see a Croctopus Chase radar that I created after being inspired by Alyosha's TAS radar script. It shows Diddy and Espresso's position on the stage at all times, which is useful for seeing where they are when navigating outside of the camera frame. Next, let's talk briefly about how the trick works and how to perform the setup. As mentioned, the split-up glitch must be leveraged to get Espresso into Croctopus Chase. This glitch allows both Kongs to be actively controlled at the same time, and if one Kong dies while the other Kong is riding an animal buddy, it allows you to take that animal buddy into any other stage that also contains the animal buddy. The glitch is performed by start selecting out of a stage while a thrown DK barrel is in midair, then taking damage over a pit, and then breaking a DK barrel to get both Kongs. In this case, we'll be using Ice Age Alley to perform the split-up glitch setup, which involves entering the stage several times. You'll want to have both Kongs with you when you beat Ice Age Alley, or Solo Donkey works if you somehow end up with that. So if you enter the stage as Solo Diddy, make sure to grab a DK barrel in the stage to save time on the setup. There are a few ways to perform the initial DK barrel throw. The safest and most reliable way is to enter the stage while holding Y, B, and left. This will buffer a jump that will cause Diddy to take damage on the mini necky nut. Then clear the mini necky with Donkey and grab the DK barrel, throwing it immediately, and start selecting out of the stage while it is in midair. There are two faster ways to do this setup, but both are significantly riskier. One way is to enter the stage only holding B and left, and release B shortly after taking control, to get hit by the nut and kill the mini necky at the same time, allowing Donkey to drop straight down to the DK barrel and throw it immediately. Another way is to take damage from the nut using the safe setup, but continue to hold left after taking control of Donkey. Go neutral for a few frames before hitting the ground, or you'll overshoot the DK barrel. Then jump and release the DK barrel in midair. You could also do what the TAS does, but Good luck with that. Now you need to re-enter the stage and take damage over a pit. Hold Y and left while entering the stage to buffer a roll. And once you see Donkey's height change while rolling up the slope, do a max jump over the mini necky. Then do a couple of small hops, the second of which should be over the pit, and take damage from the nut, falling into the pit. It is possible to do this too quickly and jump into the pit before the nut reaches you, so you may have to delay slightly between hops. Finally, you need to re-enter the stage one more time to activate the glitch by breaking the DK barrel. Then having DK fall into the pit while Diddy mounts Espresso. Start by holding Y and left again and doing the same max jump over the mini necky, but when landing, turn around so that the DK barrel breaks on the mini necky as Donkey picks it up. Then hold left until Donkey falls off the ledge, after which you can jump with Diddy to break the Espresso box and mount Espresso before the screen fades out. One thing to watch out for here is that you don't want Donkey to have momentum moving to the left when grabbing the DK barrel, or he will fall off the ledge too quickly and the camera will not pan far enough left to spawn the Espresso crate. So make sure to hold right a few frames before landing with Donkey to cancel the left momentum. The whole setup takes about 26 to 27 seconds, but now you're ready to navigate Croctopus Chase with Espresso and more than make up that time. Before walking through the stage, there are a few general things you should know about navigating a water level with Espresso. The camera in water stages is on a set track and will only advance along the track when reaching certain coordinates, or in some cases, when the player reaches certain coordinates. The camera must reach the end of the stage, as the stage exit will not spawn unless the camera gets to the end of the track. This turns the stage into a game of coercing the camera to advance as fast as possible. When standing outside of the camera's frame, the camera will slowly move towards Diddy and Espresso's coordinates as long as its current track allows. Jumping and running can speed up the camera's movement, meaning it is oftentimes not advantageous to outpace the camera by too much, or you'll run out of real estate to help speed the camera along. Enemies will also only spawn when the camera gets close to their spawn position, so when outpacing the camera by even a small amount, you can avoid most of the enemies. I've broken the stage into distinct sections that I'll go through one by one. I've created this diagram to help illustrate the map sections and the camera and player coordinates of interest for advancing the camera to the next section of the stage. The orange rectangles are spots in which the camera must reach before being able to advance along the track, and the yellow rectangles are coordinates Diddy and Espresso must touch for the camera to advance. The first section of the stage is straightforward, with one very important note about entering the stage. Do not hold Y as you enter the stage. This will buffer an animal buddy attack, but because Espresso does not have one, the game will try to perform Ramby's attack and softlock. Additionally, if holding right when entering the stage, you will be floating with no gravity, which is very slow. So when entering the stage, you want to be holding left. Then after Espresso takes a step on the land, you can safely hold right and Y to start running normally with Espresso. And hop over the squidge to be safe. Now is also a good time to mention that there are two ways to climb walls with Espresso. When jumping deep into a wall, and then jumping and flapping continuously, you will climb the wall normally, where you're jumping into the ceiling of a tile and then clipping through it with the flap. If you jump shallowly into a wall, you will instead zip upwards between the tiles. Zip climbing is faster, but it does not move the camera vertically as fast, so a combination of these climbing methods will be used throughout the stage depending on the camera situation. On the first wall, for example, zip climbing is faster, as the camera does not need to move vertically here. You can also normal climb the wall, or jump through the ceiling before the wall, but avoid holding right and mashing into this wall, or you have a high risk of falling through the stage. Run along the next section and hop over the pit. The timing on the next jump is important. You want to jump as you are falling into the Croctopus pit and flap right as you hit the wall to make it cleanly into the wall. As you exit the wall, do a small wiggle to avoid landing on the Croctopus and then hop over it. Alternatively, you can take it safer and hop over the first Croctopus and then jump through the wall. There's technically a player trigger you need to hit here to advance the camera, but it is harder to avoid than it is to hit, so it's not really a concern. Next, you'll need to jump into and climb the east wall. There's a chunk of coral on the floor after the Croctopus pit, and jumping as you make contact with it should allow you to jump cleanly into the wall. If you don't make it on the first jump, you should still have time to brush against the wall and jump into it before the Croctopus gets you. Because you need the camera to get to the top of the east wall before it can advance, you don't want to zip climb this wall, and should instead climb it normally. You will be getting ahead of the camera here, so audio cues start to become important. Mash the jump button and count 5 jump sounds. Then start holding left and do a 6th jump. This will land you on the next runway, and you can begin the transit to the west wall. You can throw a couple of extra jumps in while running left to help the camera get to the top of the east wall a little bit quicker. You will need to hop over or fall in and jump out of the Croctopus pit that is about 3/4 of the way to the center wall, and then run up to the wall. Once touching the wall, or about to touch the wall once you get the feel for it, keep holding left and do a max jump. Flap at the peak of the max jump, and then do a few quick flaps afterwards. If done correctly, you will end up landing in the area containing the O Kong letter. You will know if this worked because the camera will start to rise vertically. The goal of this section is to get the camera to move up and to the left to hit the trigger, while being in position to immediately jump down and hit the next player trigger. From the O room, jump left into the wall, but release left shortly afterwards. Then mash B until you hear 3 jump sounds. This should put you on the first ledge of the west wall climb, or in the wall directly to the right of it. Wait until the camera reaches the top of its track and starts to move left. If you are on the ledge, you can throw in a small jump to help get it there faster. Then tap left a few times until you fall down to the bottom of the west wall and hit the player trigger. Once you hit the floor here, you can hold left and start mashing jump to climb to the top of the west wall. You don't want to mash too fast here. Aim for about 6 times per second. Count 14 jump sounds and you should have reached the top of the wall. Once reaching the top of the wall, you'll likely need to jump in place a few times to help get the camera to the top of the wall quickly. The section between the west wall and the pillar can be done a few different ways. I recommend starting with the on-screen strat and moving to the off-screen strat once you get more comfortable. To exit the west wall, do a min jump while holding right, and you'll drop down onto the path. If wanting to navigate the next section on-screen, wait for the camera to reach the top of the west wall before jumping. Run along the path, hopping the 2 pits, and jump into the left wall once you reach the end of the runway. Mash for 4 jumps, and then jump to the right, and you should end up on top of the pillar. For the off-screen strat, I use a visual cue of the bottom piece of coral jutting out into the path, reaching the bottom of the screen to jump out of the west wall. To reliably jump the first pit, do a max jump right as Espresso fully exits the screen. Then listen for 10 pitter-patter sounds of Espresso's running, and do a min jump to clear the second pit. Keep running until you fall into the Croctopus pit at the bottom of the pillar, which should be empty if you're far enough ahead of the camera. Jump into the pillar, but quickly release right so you can get the zip jump up the pillar. From here, run off the right side of the pillar and wiggle to avoid getting caught in the wall. Run to the right and hop over the gap, then jump from below into the right wall and climb it. At the top of this wall, you'll need to hit a player trigger to the left of the wall to allow the camera to move through the second blast barrel section. You can either jump out of the wall to the left as you near the top of the wall and then pull right, or a safer approach is to jump out of the wall first, then jump off the ledge to the left to hit the trigger. Then enter the blast barrel and let it take you to the top. After exiting the blast barrel, run to the left and buffer a max jump as you land in the pit under the shark. Getting through the stair step section is tricky, primarily because you are not far enough ahead of the camera to beat the shark spawns and they can get in the way. One option is to do 1 wiggle on each step, that's 4 total, and run into the Croctopus pit. Once brushing against the left side of the pit, do a min jump left, and buffer a max jump when landing. Then flap into the ceiling, and mash jump after that. Another way through is to only wiggle on the first 3 steps, then hold left, which will skip the Croctopus pit, and you can jump and mash into the ceiling as soon as you see the screen start to scroll left. A third way is to fall into the Croctopus pit, then jump to the left, but wait until you fall off of the next ledge before jumping again. This should cause you to jump between the sharks and the DK barrel. Once reaching the left wall, you can either climb the left or right side. If going through the ceiling in the previous section, you'll probably want to climb the right wall. Otherwise, it is easier to climb the left wall. If climbing the right side, you'll need to jump to the left towards the top to hit the player trigger before continuing on. I refer to the next section as the north climb. There are some horizontal camera triggers, but no vertical camera trigger. So the faster you can get to the top, the faster you can advance the camera to the final area. Climbing the left or right wall are both viable options here. The safest option I've found is to wait for the camera to pan up far enough so you can line up to the right of this pillar coral. Then you can mash jump through the wall directly above you and the one above that. Once you see the camera unlock and start moving to the left, that's your cue to run to the left until you hit the next wall. Jump into this wall, zip climbing if possible, for 4 jump sounds. Start moving to the right as you do a 5th, 6th, and 7th jump. To do the same strat but without waiting for the camera, I use this small blue piece of coral under the dead space as a visual cue. As soon as it is halfway off screen, I release right and start jumping. If climbing the left wall, you don't need to be right next to the wall, as there is a fairly large section to the left of the wall that is climbable, so it is easier to aim for that. A cue you can use is when this butterfly-shaped piece of coral is about halfway off screen, you can jump and flap into the ceiling. Once in the ceiling, you want to jump and flap 4 times, then move to the right until the camera starts to pan upwards and the right wall is directly in the middle of the screen. Then jump and flap a few more times until the camera starts to move left, and the rest is the same from this point on. Now for the final section. There's a set of 2 stairs you need to drop down. Wiggle twice, similar to the set of stairs earlier in the stage. Then you'll need to either fall into the Croctopus pit and jump out, or hop the pit as soon as you start to fall into it. Jumping too early here will result in hitting the Croctopus up top, so watch out for that. After clearing the pit, you need to climb up and to the left. I recommend running into the corners until you see Espresso's height rise, and then max jumping and flapping at the peak of the jump. This gives enough height to clear the walls without having to jump into them. When reaching the top, you need the camera to match your height before moving to the right towards the exit. Jump in place to move the camera a little faster. This works best if you're lined up with the empty spot in the ceiling that lets you jump through, but just do a few quick jumps if you don't end up lined up properly. Finally, jump through the squidge field into the exit. If you take damage on a squidge, you should feel bad for leaving Espresso stranded, but you can just finish the stage as Diddy. Now I want to briefly talk about a few common mistakes and what you can do about them. First of all is taking damage. If you take damage, you'll be thrown off of Espresso, but still behave as if you're on land. As long as Espresso's nearby, you can remount him and continue. If this happens in an occupied Croctopus pit, there is usually one side of the pit where you have enough space to mount Espresso and not take damage immediately again. Alternatively, you can use Diddy's iframes to lure the Croctopus out of the pit and then mount Espresso again. If this happens at the end of the stage, on the Croctopus at the top of the north climb, you can even finish the stage as Diddy without trying to go back for Espresso. Be careful if you have Donkey with you. If Donkey is in the swimming animation and you take damage with Diddy, the game will soft lock trying to switch to Donkey. If you fall through the bottom of the map at the beginning, it is possible to get back in bounds by going all the way to the left and then doing a max jump and flap at the peak of the jump. This could save a race or marathon run. Finally, a common mistake is to fail the O-room jump and end up in the area at the bottom of the first blast barrels. If this happens, go all the way to the left, jump up the west wall until your height is even with the camera trigger, and then jump out of the wall to the right to fall back to the player trigger and continue from there. Now I'll include a full IL here with the radar enabled, so you can see all the strats at work and use it as a reference in the future. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this video helps you navigate the stage reliably, and you can start saving time and runs soon. Keep in mind that this route is still fairly new at the time of making this video, so check what people are doing in runs to see if there are updated strats, and if the route changes significantly over time, I'll be back to record version 2. I want to give a huge shout out to TheSuperDuperNintendo, who did all of the editing and effects for this video. I also want to thank everyone else that helped to make this video possible, and have tried to include links in the description to all of the referenced people and materials used in this video, so check them out.